So hello and welcome to the channel, welcome to another XCL video. It's been a long time since I've done a video, and yes, we're back. XCL, not XCL, we've done XCL. The XCL was the other night. I thought I would, rather than putting out the video that I did on the night, it was a great race, 27 drivers, all in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I managed to pick up second place, qualified in P1. And a lot of things came about during this video. Let's just come out of this setup and I'll just leave this little replay I've been doing just while I've been putting the car through its paces. So we can just see the car on the circuit. Probably should have set this going before I started this video. So yeah, on the night, I was planning on doing obviously the usual 1 litre stop when you come in, just put fuel in. Anyway, when I came into the final lobby and we were about to start the race and I clicked to see my pit strategy, the minimum time for putting 1 litre of fuel in that was set by the event, the people running the event, XCL, was 25 seconds. Now it only takes 30 seconds to change the tyres, and whilst changing the tyres they can put the fuel in at the same time. So I ended up running 81 litres of fuel, and then thinking when I'd set off at the start of the race, I might as well change tyres. It's going to take 25 seconds to put 1 litre of fuel in. I might as well change tyres for that extra 5 seconds. So when the race actually started from P1, I'm assuming the guy in second place was running probably about 40 litres of fuel rather than 80 litres of fuel, and I just wasn't able to keep up with him at all. Probably very similar on pace, having got a full laden car full of fuel. Obviously there was a lot of other drivers that had been taking part in the championship that also had ballast added to their car, so we were kind of in our own league really, any of the drivers that weren't running any sort of ballast. But a lot of things came out from setting this car up, and a lot of people struggling with the car and the issues that it's got. So I thought, rather than doing a video about the race, which was probably an hour's worth of video that probably 95% of you won't watch because it's just a long video with me in second place, never really overtaking. I think I overtook one person to reclaim second place from third place. But I was very much on my own throughout the race really. So I thought, rather than doing that, let's have a look at the aggressive setup that probably a lot of people were running on the night, and the issues that it's got and how to solve those issues. So let's come into the car. We're just going to go with the aggressive setup. I've already stuck the aggressive setup on. We can just quickly look hold of it. The only thing I've changed is the tyre pressures so that they're running about the right temperature that they should be running, the right pressures, and there weren't much of a change that I made to them either. I'll flick through the setup. We'll take some of this fuel out. Another change that we should be doing as well is taking these to brake discs 1. You can run 1 or 2. A lot of people probably won't notice very much difference. The brake discs 1 are a little bit more aggressive. A lot of things wrong with this setup, just looking at it, even from here. Things that you might want to do straight off the bat. If you like a bit more weight in your wheel, I would probably start heading more towards the far end. 15 is probably about right in most cars. If you can get 15, any heavier than that, it's just too much weight in the wheel for me. But you will gain more camber as you turn into the corners the more caster you've got. You could just reduce this using settings on your wheel. You could dial back the force feedback within the game, but for me, sometimes adding too much caster can introduce a little bit of understeer to the car. Other things that we could adjust straight off the bat is brake ducts are way too open. The brake ducts are just going to be cold literally as you come to brake, and especially in these cooler temperatures that a lot of people like to run the lobbies in, you'll find that the tyres are already cold because of the temperature of the circuit. So closing the brake ducts will introduce more heat into the tyre and get the tyre into a better operating range really. When we look back on this screen, you can't see it just now, but in the hot or the O, M and I at the very top, you'll see 30, but that should be reading around 70 to 90 degrees temperature wise. That's what you're kind of looking for. So let's just quickly take this car out for a spin. You can see we're using traction control 3, brake balance 57. Tyres are super cold because there's no blankets on the GTC cars. And we'll just have a look at the issues the car's got. Try and get the tyres up to temperature. I guess just blast away through this lap. Braking just at the curb, a good marker. Down to second gear, taking all this inside curb, taking some of this other inside curb. Keep the car wide, little lift through here, get the car to rotate, and then back on the power using all the curb on the exit. Braking again at the curb on the left hand side, down to second gear, hugging this inside curb, a little blip of accelerator, get the car to rotate, lift off, get the car turned in. When you know you've got the corner made, back on the power. Little drop down into fourth gear here. Get the nose turned in, back on the power. Should be able to hold the power all the way through here. The car doesn't feel too bad at these slower speeds. Probably down to third gear. Little lift off, let the car rotate, and then back on the power. Braking at this curb, down to third gear. Car rotates, back on the power. You should really be able to come through here without lifting, but a huge lift through there so that we're not running wide and getting a track infringement. Let the car run out wide onto the right hand side here, not too wide or else you pick up a track limits penalty. Get the car turned in, and again big lift just to try and get the car to come through that turn. Braking at where the tarmac changes colour, down to first gear, up on this inside curb, and then let's turn in for a lap. I'm dropping to TC1 here, get the car to accelerate. You probably could run TC1 all throughout the lap. Braking at the board on the left hand side. Turning nice and early. TC1 again. Car's not doing too bad. Stay in fifth gear here. Little lift. Across the curb. Still not too bad. We're still up on our delta from my own personal setup. Back to TC3. Braking a bit earlier. It's not too bad, the setup, to be fair. That's surprising me, actually. Just waiting to get on that power. Just waiting again there, but this isn't too bad. Initially when I started driving this car, I thought there's so much understeer in this car. Still having to take that little lift. Oh, just held on to second gear there, I really shouldn't have. But that's not too bad, a 219 in this car. Let's go for another lap. Oh, just running wide there, but we're going to continue with this lap. Because this really has surprised me, coming back into this car, knowing the little changes you need to make to drive this circuit in this car. Oh! Just touched the curb there. But that has surprised me actually, just how it's the subtle differences with driving this circuit. It almost feels like the car just needs a little bit more stability. So we're just going to try and add a little bit more rear grip to this car in the setup that we're running. I'm just going to drop this steering because it feels like I could be a little bit more precise with my cornering. But the car doesn't feel as bad as I thought it did, to be honest. Let's go back out with this setup. I'll skip forward to the flying lap just now. So back on with this flying lap, let's give it another blast. What's surprising me is that I'm up on my Delta from my own setup. Whether this is... I don't even feel like we're running less rear wing. Back to TC3. Going to brake nice and early. Always tricky, that corner. Just that these little bits that are causing the car to be a bit slower, yes. I can see areas where the car's struggling. Just on the cusp. So that has surprised me to do a 219 dead. Let's just return to the garage and just look at this timetable. So this was my previous lap that I'd run with my own setup. So we're very similar. The middle sector seems to be a little bit quicker and I'm a little bit quicker in the other sector. So problems that we're seeing in this car was the amount of high speed understeer. It doesn't feel too unstable through the corners. Under braking it seems pretty planted, but we're losing the rotation really on high-speed corners, we're just having to take that little lift. So the only thing really for me that we should be looking at, I'm just going to double check that we are running the let me just quickly come out of here. Let's load the aggressive preset, confirm. The only adjustments that we're going to make is add a little bit of caster, because it surprised me here. 22 at the front, that's what I was running. 21.2. We're going to take out all this fuel, put 30 litres of fuel in and drop those. That's what we're running. We've just dropped that down. It is the same setup. Right, so we're going to drop them as well. That's exactly what we've just been running. And it has surprised me, it really has. So anyway, coming back to this setup. The one thing that's going to make a difference to make the car turn more through rotation wise at high speed is lifting the rear ride height, because it's gonna make the car dartier. It's going to allow the car to rotate much easier by lifting the rear wing. But at the same point, obviously you've got to imagine going through our ruses, loads of compression through the front of the car. We might very well start to bottom out the front of the car because we're lifting it like this, but it's going to give us more rotation. So I've added maybe 5 clicks of rear ride height, and that's all we're going to change. Take the car back out. It might give us some instability at the rear of the car, but we can solve that a little bit easier. We can solve the characteristics of the car looking on this page. Really, we've got so much adjustment in the anti-roll bars, the wheel rates, so we can solve those problems with grip at the rear by reducing the rear wheel rates, or we could increase the rear anti-roll bar or the front anti-roll bar to make the rear of the car softer by making the front of the car stiffer. So this is the only thing we're going to change, just to try and get the car so that we're not having to lift so much under the high speed corners. I definitely don't think you can take a Rouge flat out in this car. It just has too much understeer to go into 6th gear and carry the car through. So I'll just warm the tyres again. Join me at the start of the next lap. So here we go then. Definitely feels like there's a bit more rotation. Maybe we're losing a little bit of rear grip. So very similar through the first corner. Oh, just running wide. See, it's very hard to get through there. Still carrying speed just in 5th gear. So going to 6th gear is just not going to happen. Still getting a bit of understeer through there. Much better exit. Whoa. Running too deep. Lost loads of time. Car's rotating maybe a little bit too much. But see how much time we've made up just on the exit, that one corner. Carrying a little bit more speed through there as well. Definitely worth another lap. So not quite nailing first corner. So pretty similar as we come down the Camel Straight, back to TC3. Not the best line through there. Still very similar. But loads of time we're making through that section. Even able to hang on almost through there. So across the line into the 218s. So let's return back to the garage and let's, obviously, like I've mentioned before, we're getting the rotation through just lifting the rear ride height. So let's try and add a little bit more stability back to the rear of the car by just lowering the rear wheel rates, just softening out the rear of the car to try and get more grip from the rear of the car. Just 2 little clicks. Try and give yourself more grip from the rear of the car. Give you more confidence turning into the corner that you're not going to lose the rear of the car. Obviously, join me again when we come back for the flying lap. So here we go again then. Tyres only just in the operating window. Much better through turn 1. Feels a bit too deep. Just didn't come off the accelerator to get the car to turn early enough. Let's see if we can do a bit more with this lap. Definitely not doing much more with this lap. Don't be too disheartened because this is only our second lap. The tyres are always in a better window on that third lap. So again, very similar on that exit. So we're not a million miles away. And I still think there's time to be made up in this last final corner. Obviously quicker through there. So clearly got a little bit of time we can make in that final corner. Loads of time made up in turn one. Almost carried it through, lost a little bit. Still up on the delta though, so it's all good. Try and be smooth. Not too bad. Carried too much speed. Oh, that speed lost. Nearly 3/10 lost. I'm just running too wide there, just picking up a penalty. Still over the line for a 2:18.6. Let's try one more. So I think that speaks for itself, doesn't it? Return to the garage. Look at that timetable. So getting much more competitive through that middle sector, but just looking at the changes that you're making, I'll just try and emphasize the rear ride height is going to give the car more rotation. So if you're suffering with high speed understeer, this is where you need to be looking to make the changes. Or if you're running too much height on the rear wing, you need to be on the front wing, you need to be lowering the car a bit. Remember, we've got to get through our rouge consistently. Other key areas, so the rear ride height is going to be the predominant factor to get the car to rotate more. And for me, you're looking at the rear wheel rates to give yourself more stability. If you start getting the car to rotate a lot, the car's really compliant in rotating during high speed corners, but you're losing all the rear grip, then you can start to lower the rear grip or rear wheel rates to give yourself more grip. Other things you could do, if you've got some anti-roll bar at the rear, you could soften the rear anti-roll bar, give yourself more rear grip. You could start adding front wheel rate to give yourself again more rear grip at the rear. You're making the front of the car stiffer, so in retrospect it makes the rear of the car softer, so you're going to give yourself more rear grip by stiffening the front suspension. You could stiffen the front bump stop rates. These are smaller adjustments. You could stiffen the front anti-roll bar to give the rear a softer roll bar. All these little tweaks that we can make and start to get the car handling much better. So yeah, I thought that was going to be a little bit more interesting than just watching me run the race that I did on Tuesday night. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on where to go with some setup changes. The Lamborghini is a really good car to drive. It's definitely not. It's not a GT3 car, so it's not going to be as competitive as GT3 cars in a GT3 lobby. But you can still, if you're racing alongside other drivers that are in the 218s, 219s, this car's definitely still doable in those lobbies. But it's got a few bits missing. The dampers just aren't as tunable. And yeah, it's just suffering with a bit of understeer. It's definitely a driver's car, fun to drive. I enjoyed setting the car up and definitely learnt a few things, especially with the pit stop strategies when the minimum fuel load takes 25 seconds to put in. Definitely things to think about. Obviously, if you can run longer races, say 45 minutes, just on one set of tyres, getting a bit out of shape there, on one set of tyres, you might be able to benefit from that 5 seconds in the pit lane. But yeah, just think about how much fuel you're putting in the car as well. Obviously, if you're going to do a 30-second stop, you can put loads of fuel in, then it's not going to make the stop any longer. So definitely just a few things to think about. Thanks for watching the channel. Thanks for sticking with it. Probably the last video of the year for me. I'll be working away till after Christmas, and I've got a busy time just coming back after Christmas. But obviously we've got ACC Evo launching on PC, early access. Loads of things we're hearing about AC or ACE as it is arriving with the area around the Nordschleife being accessible, open world. So loads of things to look forward to in the coming year with regards to sim racing. But yeah, thanks for watching. Enjoy your Christmas and ciao for now.